This one is not very far from the last one. The
like
other one is there. This one is right here on the other side of the old Walmart store. And again, it is a strip center that has been there for who knows how long. It far predates the transit station or the light rail or any of that. It is, again, a relatively small part of this larger Walmart old center. And again, the problem here is parking because of the nature of the way these parcels are carved up. So for the time being, the purpose of this rezoning is probably going to be for continuing use of this building. However, it is for TOD mixed use, and it is for a conventional, not conditional use yet again, so that in the future, when redevelopment occurs, that those standards will be in place. But in the meantime, it allows for continuing use of this building. It is in accordance with the transit station plan, which calls for TOD use for this whole area over time. And again, it's very similar to what we've done in other stations along Scaly Bark and the New Bern area. And so we are recommending approval of this proposal.
Any questions, Mr. Eggleston?
I'd just like to encourage all my colleagues to visit this shopping center in the Tamaleria Lorita, which is a phenomenal restaurant.
Second.
Any other questions before we move to close?
Move close.
Second.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 21 is petition number 2018-019 by Ricardo Torres, approximately 0.42 acres located on the east side of North Sharon Amity Road, north of Clearmont Avenue, south of Central Avenue in Councilmember Newton's district. Current zoning is office conditional. The proposed rezoning is office conditional site plan amendment. And we do have one speaker, Ms. Griffith. So go ahead, Ms. Keplinger.
I believe we have the wrong petition on the board.
Yes.
21?
Yeah, they've got 19. Let's see.
2018-19. Looks like.
I'm sorry. Tammy's on the wrong page.
Oh, okay.
We're moving a little bit too fast tonight for me to keep up. I apologize.
Oh, no, it's good.
All right. I had us at the next one. Hopefully. Okay, so this property is located along North Sharon Amity Road. This is Central Avenue to the north. Clearmont Avenue is just to the south. When you're driving along this section of North Sharon Amity, there are apartments and some single-family residential properties in this section. Then as you move up towards Central Avenue, it gets more commercialized. There's a big commercial retail building here, offices, and then retail as you move on north. The site that we're talking about tonight was rezoned in 1992 to allow the existing single-family residential home, which is a little over 1,200 square feet, to be used for an office. The Eastland Area Plan that was adopted in 2003 recognizes this property as office based on that previous rezoning, and it recommends office as an acceptable transition between the multifamily and the retail uses. So the request that we have tonight is to rezone the property it's a site plan amendment from O1CD to O1CD. They want to replace the existing building, which is 1,200 square feet, with a new building that's about 4,200 square feet. So they're going to remove the single family residential. They also want to allow all uses in the office district. Previously, they only were allowed general office uses and not medical office uses. In looking at the site plan, the building is pulled up to the street with parking to the rear. They've increased the buffer on this side from 7.6 feet to 10 feet, and they've added a 6-foot wall around the perimeter, and then they also have the buffer that is shown. In terms of this plan, it is consistent with the Eastland Area Plan, which recommends office, as previously noted, and staff will be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Ms. Griffith, you have 3 minutes to speak. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, and zoning committee. Only to present this case, I'm representing the petitioner, Mr. Torres. They want to keep the same use. They're trying to keep the building that are proposing with the scale, size, character of the neighborhood, and they see it as an improvement, not just to the property, but also to the neighborhood. They have, they're providing a fence on the side to the neighbor for a buffer of 7.6 feet, and the same thing for the buffer in the back. Nothing really, only to answer questions if you had any, and asking for your support.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Move to close.
Second.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving right along. Number 22, and we usually do a time check about this time. We've got 6 more hearings to go.
Could do it.
Mayor Pro Tem, I would say, even if we do bump up against 10 o'clock, given the dynamic of having to have kicked these from last week, we just
Yeah.
finish.
So everybody's okay with doing that if we go a little bit over 10? For
I'm
whoever's
not even
left?
sure we will, but I think we should.
I think we'll be okay, but I just want to make
Power
sure we're on the same
Trucking,
page.
guys.
Power
Keep on
through. Let's
trucking.
get it
We'll
done.
get done.
That's right.
Okay. Item number 22, rezoning petition 2018-021 by Michael Melton, approximately 3/7 of an acre, 0.37 acres located at the intersection of the Plaza and Shamrock Drive, and this is in Councilmember Eggleston's district. Currently zoned neighborhood business conditional, proposed rezoning is neighborhood business. And we have got one speaker in favor.
So this property is located along the plaza. Matheson Avenue is here, 35th Street is here. It's at the corner of Shamrock Drive. This section of the plaza has a lot of small, individual, independent, commercial development along it. There is some mid-sized box retail, CVS and Food Lion. The site that we're talking about tonight was rezoned back in 2008 to allow 3,000 square feet of automotive retail uses on the site. And the site was never redeveloped, and from talking with the petitioner, we believe that that was partially due to what happened around 2007, 2008 with the economy. Prior to the 2008 rezoning, the property was zoned B2 CD. In terms of the future land use, the Central District Plan, which was adopted in 1993, was amended by the rezoning in 2008 to show this property as retail. You can see all along the plaza corridor, most of the properties are retail with the residential behind. In terms of this request, it is a conventional petition. It is consistent with the Central District Plan. It allows all retail uses that would serve the neighborhood that is located along the plaza, and the retail uses could provide goods and services for the adjoining residential neighborhoods also. So staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Mr. Warren, welcome. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Probably 3 minutes. Basically, this used to be an old gas station. Now they can convert it to a retail space. So the old island where the pumps were, that's going to be removed. The normal gable, how they do gas stations, and they go both ways. They'll put a front up, a soffit up there to hide all that. So they're improving the neighborhood.
Exactly what he's going to do. Sir,
Yes.
we don't need the details of your plan.
Say that again?
We don't need for you to tell us the
Okay.
details because it's a conventional plan.
Okay, then
Okay.
that's it. Thanks.
Just have a couple minutes to make your case. Thank you. Do we have any questions from council?
No,
Motion to
move
close.
All in favor of closing?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question.
I got a question.
Oh, I'm
just
sorry,
in
Mr.
general.
Phipps.
So on a conventional rezoning, even if the information is volunteered by the petitioner, it's still inappropriate?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think we voted to close the public hearing. So we'll go on to item number 23, petition number 2018-023 by Jason Idilby.
Idlibi.
Is it spelled wrong?
Idilby.
Is it Idliby?
It's Idlibi.
It says okay.
I think it's misspelled.
It'll be.
It'll be, oh, okay.
approximately 0.5 acres located on the south side of Spencer Street, east of East 36th Street, west of Heron Avenue in Councilmember Eggleston's district. It's currently zoned R5 Single Family Residential, proposed rezoning UR2 Urban Residential Conditional. And we have got 2 speakers signed up to speak against, so we'll go ahead and start with Ms. Keplinger.
Yes, ma'am. Staff is also in opposition to this petition. In terms of this request, this is 36th Street and Spencer Street, Heron Avenue. This is our property. It's a property that has a single-family home located on it. We've had some rezonings along 36th Street, most recently for some townhomes, and you're going to see another phase of that development come in a couple months. But this area, kind of in here, is basically the single-family residential core of this area. This is in the NoDa neighborhood. The Steel Gardens development, which was approved in 2007, includes single-family and townhomes and was approved for some live-work units. I'm not sure if the live-work units are actually being utilized. This is the existing home that's on the site. These are some of the surrounding single-family residential homes that are located just off to the right of this property. In terms of the future land use plan, this is in the BLE Transit Station Area Plan, which was adopted in 2013, and the plan recommends residential at 5 dwelling units per acre. The request that we have before you tonight is for to rezone the property to UR2 CD to allow 3 single-family detached dwellings. There are 2 flag lots and 1 standard lot. So I want to show you what a flag lot is. This is the property to be rezoned. This is the first property, which will be the first lot, which will be a standard lot. This would be the second lot. It's called a flag lot, obviously, because it looks like a flag. The home would be constructed here. And then the third lot is proposed, and oops, got happy with that. Apologize. The third lot would be constructed, the house would be constructed there. The petitioner, instead of having individual driveways to these 2 lots, the petitioner is proposing 1 driveway that would serve both of those, which is acceptable. The subdivision ordinance and the zoning ordinance does require the street frontage, and that is what this little flag is intended to meet. So the houses that are proposed will, the density is just a little bit over what is recommended by the area plan at 5.3 units per acre, 3 stories, maximum height of 40 feet. They will have access for the 1 15-foot driveway that I talked about for the 2 flag lots. The other lot will have its access. The petitioner has specified building materials. They're providing tree save and a semi-opaque landscape screening area, which we really need to have that defined. I'm not sure what semi-opaque means in these terms. And also they specified screening and fence materials. So the proposed tree save areas are located here at the end of the property, and this is where the landscaping and screening is going. So what I'd like to do is, I know this map is really hard for council to see. What my intent with this map was to show you the residential development pattern in this area. And you might be able to see this in your notebooks better. But you can see most of these lots are developed with direct frontage along the streets in this core area where we have single-family residential. And what this proposal is for will allow these flag lots, which is inconsistent with that development pattern that we have. Now, there's one place in this area that we have allowed flag lots through a rezoning that was approved a number of years ago. And it is in relation to the North Charlotte Park, which is located right here. If you look at these 3 houses, you can see how these houses front on the park. In order to accomplish that, a rezoning was approved in 2007 to UR1 CD to allow flag lots. But this was a very unique situation where this is, the house is front along that park. It creates a great environment for eyes on the park and for people to see what is going on, and they actually have frontage to the street. It's just divided by the park. They also have a sidewalk system that provides access to those houses. So in terms of this request, the single-family land use is consistent with the BLE Transit Station Area Plan. However, the proposed density is a little bit higher at 5.3. In addition, the site doesn't comply with the community design guidelines, specifically the ones that say that the building should orient toward the street, resulting in an arrangement of buildings in an orderly block pattern. Staff has looked at this petition. We feel like there might be some other options. The property owner may be able to get 2 houses on the property if the site was rezoned to a different classification, or we could work with him on that. But the flag lot pattern is something that we would not recommend for the area.
Thank you. We have 2 speakers, Jody Sosna and Benjamin Smith. Are they here tonight? We have 3 minutes to get. Just Mr. Smith tonight? Okay, it's 3 minutes total.
10 minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry, 10 minutes. Oh, yes, there's.
Hopefully won't need the whole 10. I'm Ben Smith. I'm here with some of our neighbors that live on Spencer Street. My wife's here as well, Heather Smith. First, I want to put in the record my condolences to my wife, as she informed me that since we got a babysitter tonight, it counts as date night, and thus is the worst date she's ever been on. But we're here to voice our opposition to the rezoning petition. Not only as residents of Spencer Street, but also as prideful homeowners in the NODA neighborhood, members of the NODA Neighborhood and Business Association, and citizens of Charlotte that want to use this forum to voice our local voice for the vision of the city. I'm going to go over 5 points that kind of outline our opposition. First one is density. It's easy, since this is close to the Blue Line extension, to see this as an opportunity to increase density, which has generated a lot of growth in that area among many others. But this specific rezoning would have very minimal impact on that density. Just some stats measured by units per acre. NODA already has one of the highest density areas along the BLE at 3.3, and it's well above the county average of 1.3, obviously. That measurement does not include all of the new units and new rezoning, new development that is occurring in the area. By the end of this year, we count a total of 672 new living units in NODA. This is based off of completed projects already this year, current rezoning petitions, presentations at the Neighborhood and Business Association, along with new construction. Out of the 672, 80 of those new units are within 300 feet of this property. So there's a lot of it happening nearby already. All of this density increase has been achieved with keeping single-family dwelling parcels at R5, which this one is. So we don't see a need to change that designation to achieve density in the area. Number 2, the neighborhood's against it. The NODA Neighborhood and Business Association members voted it down 28-7 on the motion to approve. These are, active members of our community who share the vision for our neighborhood, and they want to preserve the appeal and culture of the neighborhood. I'll also note that the NODA board and NBA have supported rezoning petitions that increase density in the area in the past. So it's not as if they're against every single rezoning petition that comes with these rezoning codes. Number 3, can set a precedent that could compromise the makeup of the neighborhood, of course, which is a common theme with some of these rezonings. Could be a gateway petition for any resident or property developer to subdivide parcels, add multiple houses onto them that don't face the street, which again, the members and the Charlotte staff oppose that setup where they don't front the street. Number 4, this is, the staff touched on this as well. It's surrounded by other single-family parcels as well. So there have been examples where you know, the rezoning's been done to UR1, UR2, whatever the code may be, but that's been where it's on a corner lot, or it's fronting a park, or it's backing up to a railroad, or, you know, other transit or public property, and not surrounded by other single-family homes on all sides. So this is kind of breaking with what's been approved in the past for this type of zoning. Let's see, where was I? Number 5, just some inaccuracies in the site plan, you know, that give us pause. I'll run through kind of a quick laundry list. You know, this is in our letter that we wrote to the council members as well. Trees, several trees on the plan either do not exist or are not in the accurate location. This includes the tree save area. There's 12 trees on the site plan. It says that there's 4 in the tree save area, only 1 currently exists. Of the other remaining 8 on the plan, once you consider the requirements of the fire, setbacks, and et cetera, there's probably only gonna be a few trees left on the property, in our opinion. Second, there's utility pole and utility lines that run right through the backyard of the property. That's not on the site plan. There's nothing addressing how that will be resolved as it goes right through where one of the proposed housing units would be. There is a flared end section storm drain. Basically, this is just concrete exposing out of the ground to help running water through the backyard, and that has not been addressed. They would have to almost build the driveway would almost have to be a bridge over that pipe in order to not interfere with it. And then, you know, the streetscape and landscaping, staff touched on this. The site plan's vague regarding what the height of the landscape screening would be and fencing would be. There's no landscape screening or fencing on the north side of the property, which is also single-family home, so there's just one side of screening. And it doesn't ensure anything that those fences or trees would be there permanently, you know, assuming that these properties would be resold, and property owners after that could do whatever they like with those trees and fencing. So, you know, as far as, you know, those inaccuracies in the site plan or inadequacies, however you tend to look at them, you understand that those could be subsequently addressed, but the inaccuracy gives us pause as to, you know, just the accuracy of the plan and how it's going to be executed moving forward. So in closing, rezoning petition does not create sufficient density to justify change in the historic neighborhood rezoning of R5 for lots of single-family dwellings, especially since 2 of the units created would not front the street. Approving the rezoning petition would not only contradict the wishes of the neighbors and taxpayers on Spencer Street, but also the overwhelming you know, community vote by the NODA Neighborhood and Business Association members. And then finally, approval would not be seen as a green light for other property, could also be seen as a green light for other property owners and developers to, 1, file similar petitions, as I mentioned. And then also, you know, more important to the NODA neighborhood, that the opinion of the NODA MBA members is not paramount to achieving the objectives of neighborhood development, and that, you know, their voice is not going to matter in the eyes of council. So that's all I had. Jody, do you want to?
Okay, yep, you have just under 3 minutes. Although the clock doesn't seem to be
Good
moving.
evening. I just wanted to address the fact that the water is a major concern, and we've all spent thousands of dollars on our houses. Most of us are here that live in the adjoining or adjacent properties, and we've spent literally thousands of dollars in water remediation from that sewer line that's coming that way. That being said, we kind of have it under control, but if they build this again, we're going to all have to begin that process over again. The other thing that should be noted is the 2 houses that are directly to the, if you're looking straight at it, to the right of it, had to be put on what are called pylons or pitons. And those are basically, think of a telephone pole being drilled into the ground, so only about 4 or 5 feet stand up above it. And the problem with that is you have to take like a 2-ton piece of machinery to shove those down into the ground. And my house is over 100 years old. So doing that is just going to crack, more cracks in my foundation, more cracks in my pool deck. I mean, just the damage that would cause the surrounding buildings is a concern of mine, and how does that get addressed? I mean, do we take pictures of before and after of the building? Because of these pitons that'll have to be used to put in these 3 buildings. And I think that, again, one house facing the street sounds like a good plan to me. That's really what I have. We already have a mass traffic on Spencer, too, and it's just gonna create more, probably a street light, maybe? I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have a rebuttal because we don't have a petitioner.
Didn't sign up to speak.
Not sign up to speak, so,
Does that mean he can or can't rebut?
well,
He
what are the rules on that if he did not, the petitioner did not speak in the first place?
Was he signed up to speak?
No.
Yes, my urban design planning department spoke today with the clerk's office and said that I would be here presenting.
He didn't sign up.
Well, they can sign up now.
No, it's too late.
I don't know how that works.
It's at your discretion. I mean, you can now allow him his time to speak since.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, well then, come on down.
Mayor Pro Tem, to clarify, I did talk to Paul with Urban Design, but they did not ask about speaking, or I would have sent them to the clerk's office. So I did have a conversation with them today.
So would this just be the 2-minute rebuttal, or?
Well, if he's the petitioner, then he does have a right to speak after the presentation as part of the initial presentation.
So 10
it's at
minutes?
your discretion is how much time you want to add. I don't know how much time was allowed the first time. Do we know that?
10 minutes
10
would have been
minutes.
allowed.
But did anyone speak at all?
No.
No one spoke for it.
So it's up to him.
It's at your discretion, but I think you should, I think that 10 minutes would be what would be appropriate.
Okay, and so that, and then there would not be another 2 minutes for rebuttal? We'll just do the 10 minutes? Kind of combine it all in one?
Well, no, you've heard opposition, and then he does get a 2-minute rebuttal because he's heard the opposition. Unfortunately, it's just in the.
Okay. Maybe you can put it all together,
Order.
so.
That's fine.
So he's got total 12 minutes.
Well, if you,
That's not what we do.
yeah, that's not what we're saying. If you could,
Make
if
the high points, come on, come on.
you
let's
could do
do
it in your 10
Jason, you got
minutes,
10
sir.
minutes.
Could you
Okay,
state your
I will
name?
try for 10 minutes. Thank you, I
I'm
appreciate
sorry,
it.
could you state your name also?
Jason, it'll be.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be a great day.
It'll be. It'll be.
Might be.
Got it.
Well, my time is running, so I'll try to move quickly. Well, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Isel, City Council members, members of the zoning committee, planning staff. Fortunately, Ms. Kiplinger hit some of the high points of how I want to describe the property, so you're already teed up for that. But as you can see, I'm here as a private citizen. I don't have an army of attorneys. I'm just representing myself. I happen to be in a unique and fortunate position to own a relatively large piece of property in a very nice area that's very close to the light rail. That just happened to work out by good luck, and I'm grateful for that. This is a half a mile to the light rail line. As you can see on my presentation, I'm a former longtime member of NODA. I no longer live there now, but I lived there for over 5 years, and I was on the NBA board for about 2.5 years. I moved to Davidson exactly 2 years ago, Memorial Day weekend, and I bought this property shortly thereafter. So this is the property. You don't need to see any more of that orientation. That's the current house, single-family brick ranch built in the 60s. The property is about 92 feet wide, 93 feet wide by 227 feet deep. You can't really see from this angle, but it slopes towards the back, so it gets deeper away from the road. And right behind it is a city-owned parcel, and I'll explain why that's relevant in a moment. And it's about 0.6 of an acre all told, 0.57, I believe. This is just to orient you as you're heading down 36 toward the plaza. That's the intersection with Spencer Street that my house is on. The house you see on the left by the big trees, that's Saucy Burbank development that was mentioned earlier. Here you're on Spencer Street approaching the property. Ms. Sosna lives in that purple house on the left, and then Mr. and Mrs. Smith live in the what's now shows as a white house, but it's actually more of a teal house now. I should note just on that point that, and my house is immediately behind what appears to be the White House there. I should note that that property where the tan house and the White House used to be zoned R5, and it was almost exactly the same lot size as mine, like 94 or 95 feet by 227 feet deep. It was rezoned a few years back. to R6 conditional to allow the construction of those two homes. This is the pictures of those two homes a little more close up. If you keep going up Spencer Street, that's my house. This is you continuing to go up. That's the park, and then that's the property that Ms. Kiplinger mentioned earlier. That's that rezoning petition. Again, very similar in concept to what I'm proposing to do mine, almost like a mirror image of it. And I am mindful of the fact that that does front the park, whereas mine does not. It's nestled between other houses. And I am proposing to solve for that by some landscape screening and privacy fencing, which I'll discuss in a moment. So one thing just to note here, this is the revised site plan, just a screenshot of that. You'll see there's actually a winding driveway that is precisely for the purpose of preserving some trees there. In the cloud in the bottom right, that's again a revision in the site plan that refers to landscape screening that would run all along that. That would be the western boundary, but it looks like the right-hand side. So the Smith's house is immediately to the right of that. And then another thing that we submitted in the revised site plan so this part talks in part about the streetscape and landscaping. The point above that talks about the architectural standards. So this was modeled off of the initial site plan, so you see the original driveway is still there. But what you're seeing is the residence is about 2,500 square feet. You can see in the dashed lines around them, like the entire building envelope, what you could potentially build on at a maximum capacity. Obviously, I'm not trying to do that. 2,500 square feet to 3,000 square feet is roughly consistent with some of the newer homes in that area that have been built, so I don't want to do anything too crazy there. One would be facing Spencer Street there, and then the other two would be 90 degrees offset to that, facing the driveway. And they would be facing, again, so that would be the Smith's property, and again, there would be landscape screening all along that. In total, the acreage for these properties would each be the front one, approximately 0.12, the middle one approximately 0.15, and the rear one approximately 0.21. If you compare that to some of the newer homes as they've been subdivided and built up in NODA, a lot of them are around 1/10 of an acre. So that's pretty consistent with the size around that area. It has been suggested maybe I could do something to create two houses that would front Spencer Street, and again, that is exactly what happened with what's now, the left side of that is the Smith's property, very similar size and orientation. Again, it was rezoned in 2007, and now two homes live on it. So this is exactly what happened there. Now, I will submit to you why that cannot happen with my property, which is this reason. There is that's the western edge on the right-hand side. That's a 20-foot access easement. Again, there is a city-owned property behind it that's completely landlocked. So my property has that 20-foot access easement that can't be developed on. There's also, to the left of that, is a sanitary sewer line and a 10-foot buffer. So really, I am only able to develop what would be east of that sanitary sewer line and the buffer, which would be, to the left on your screen. And so now you can see again why I'm kind of proposing to do it that way. You can only build to the left of that area. I wish I had another option, but moving the easement and the sanitary sewer line would not be feasible for me. And just to give you some conceptual overviews of what it might be looking like, this is what a concept for the first house, the house that will be fronting Spencer Street. It appears to be, 2 stories there, but again, because the property gets deeper, it could actually support a tandem garage on the lower level, so there would be off-street parking, at least 2 spaces in the tandem garage and driveway space. These are the other 2 houses that would be, again, offset 90 feet to that, or 90 degrees to that. Again, a tandem garage and some storage space on the lower level, again, to support off-street parking and, living space and, common space above that, and then bedrooms above that, more or less. Just the third site plan is just a variation of the second one. So just briefly want to highlight some of the benefits here. Again, it's currently a very small house that's, single-family brick ranch.
And what you could accomplish with this rezoning is to enable the construction of new single-family homes out of high-quality materials. I think it's been mentioned, the word single-family home has come up a lot in the course of the previous presentations, and I do want to emphasize these are single-family homes. We're not doing townhouses or condos or anything like that. I'm very mindful of the neighborhood's preferences on this point, and I sought out at the very beginning to do single-family homes. Unlike the similar concept on the park that has a 14-foot setback, this actually does lock in a 30-foot setback, so that would be consistent with how the homes look all along that street. There would be a tree-safe area. There would be a dedicated right-of-way for the city planting strip and sidewalk. There would be the landscape screening and fencing, which doesn't exist currently. Again, a minimum of 2, possibly 3, or maybe even 4 off-street parking spaces. Again, the acreage would be those sizes there, all over 1/10 of an acre in each case. And again, I should say, by right, somebody could tear down that house and build it a 20-foot setback, build a massive home without any sensitivity to off-street parking or high-quality materials or anything like that. So I do want to be sensitive to those concerns, and I sought out from the very beginning to capture those aspects. I don't want to dwell a lot of time here. You guys are probably mindful of this, but it's just a comparison of how the tax assessments and tax values to the city and county would work out over time. I've spoken with the neighbors on several occasions now. I understand privacy is a concern. The current petition caps construction height at 40 feet. I'm exploring ways with my architect to see if we can get that down to 35 feet and lock that in, again, to accommodate the privacy concern and make sure that these houses aren't too high, overlooking a neighbor's property. Landscape screening, there is a species of trees that I have at my current property, they're called green giants. I think that's the trade name, not the species name, but they're very nice, all-season trees. They survive in all sorts of climate areas, and they grow about 5 feet per year. You can probably purchase them at 8 to 10 feet of maturity. So within 2 years or so, you'd be looking at 20-foot high trees that would be providing some more privacy screening, and of course promoting the tree canopy. So I'm going to continue to explore those, and hopefully, if those are feasible options for me, I will submit those in a resubmitted site plan. Here, again, this is to the point that I made earlier, which is that, again, if this rezoning isn't approved, a future owner of this property could do a number of things by right, which wouldn't preserve what I think are some of these better aspects of redeveloping this property. And lastly, I'm at time, so that's 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Ittleby.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We do have some questions, so if you would
Sure.
stay
Yes.
there. Dr. Harlow?
Thank you. First question is for staff. This is an interesting one. I've never seen these flag lots. Are kind of interesting design. I think you got kind of creative there. Not that that's a bad thing, but I guess I'm curious. And your presentation helps with that, so I'm glad that you were able to get on here. But for Tammy, it is the understanding that staff's not recommending it in its current form. There's clearly some constraints here with kind of with the parcel. Would staff be comfortable with these flag kind of lots if there were just 2 structures instead of 3?
We would have to look at it. My gut reaction is probably not, because it does not fit with the context of the neighborhood. In terms of these houses in the core of this area are all single-family homes fronting on the street, whereas in this situation, you would have the front of a house facing the back of a house. And as proposed, it would be the fronts of 2 houses facing the back of 2 houses.
Right. Okay. I don't really know how you get around that one, but nonetheless, the second question is about the transportation outstanding issue around the planning strip. You worded it pretty interesting in your presentation. As it relates to, there's the setback, and the right-of-way is allotted for the city planning strip and sidewalk, but it sounds like the staff is, the way you put it was like, oh, well, the city can come in and do this, but I'm confused as the conditional note is the staff is wanting the petitioner to commit to that. Are you committing to that, or was that just you kind of saying, well, there's space here, somebody can do it?
Yeah, I saw that in the notes, and I appreciate the comment. I haven't, really considered that all that thoroughly, and I'd be happy to come back to you on that. But what I would point out is if you're looking at this picture on the street, the existing sidewalk is all harmonious throughout. This is just what it looks like. So if I were at my property here to put in a planting strip and then a sidewalk behind that, you would actually disrupt the natural flow of the sidewalk as it exists. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I'm certainly happy to look into it and come back to you on that. But again, it would just be an odd thing where you're walking straight and then suddenly the sidewalk curves around the planting strip at my property and then it goes back as you reach the next property.
Yeah, so it's all just 5 foot side. Now, I know in our discussions, we just redid our whole sidewalk ordinance. We talked about that and the gaps, and we said, just for the council, if you remember, we asked about that, and we said we'd be okay with those types of things. And so, just so you know that, but yeah.
Sure, if that's an ask, I can certainly consider that. And to your earlier question about, some of the privacy issues, again, there's not a lot I can do because of the constraints of the property. And if you think about it, if you look at a lot of intersections in NODA in particular, there are a lot of houses that look to the sides of other houses. I know that this isn't at an intersection, so that's a little complicated, but as far as the width goes, it's about the same width, and I'm proposing to install trees and fencing that would solve that privacy concern. That's really the best I can do with the challenges of the property.
Site, yeah. Yeah, this is a tough site, but no, appreciate you. Thank you.
Mr. Winston?
Question is for staff, Ms. Kiplinger. This actually is going to reference another rezoning that will be getting presented to in the future, I do believe. I don't think, there is, I don't know if we have the aerial view of this property.
How far out do you need to go? Is that far
So
enough?
I want to see the city-owned property that he actually referenced.
It's right there behind.
We can't really see it, but it's basically a bunch of trees back here. And that's going to be part of a future rezoning that folks are going to try to put for sale housing, but include more density to include some affordable workforce level for sale housing. But as I see it right now, that is not going to be street-facing property. But it's going to include some of that property that the daycare center is on currently, as well as part of the church's land that is right there. And as we continue to ask developers to kind of think outside the box in general how we develop our city, I know this is not necessarily a diverse price point project, but we're telling people in general to think outside the box for developers. Are we going to say, should I assume that moving forward, because it's in the same area, that you're going to oppose rezonings that kind of think outside the box like that because they're not providing street-facing parking? I mean, housing, excuse me?
Mr. Winston, I think we look at each rezoning case on its own merits. And we'll have to determine when the site plan comes in, what it looks like, how access is provided, how it fits into the context with the neighborhood. So on a broad scope, I would say that is something that that might have challenges for us. Just trying to get back to there's your property that you're talking about.
Yeah. And so just to see from my colleagues, we own a big part of that kind of tree this property that is just trees. Is that correct?
My understanding is that we do, and I think there may be, I believe that we have talked to some folks about the possibility of looking at that area for redevelopment, but nothing has come in on it yet.
I believe that it will be coming. I met with a developer that is working on that project. And just for clarification, I might just be reading this wrong. Staff is basically opposed to this because the houses are not street facing.
There's two reasons. First, the density. It's over what's recommended for the area, and also because of the contextual pattern.
Thank you.
Mr. Bakari.
Thanks. Can I ask a question of the gentleman on date night? And while I do that, so on one side with what staff said, I tend to agree in just hearing it kind of at a high level with Councilman Winston of we're asking people to be creative and innovative. So, you know, the street-facing orientation is obviously one piece of this. I challenge the zoning committee to have a robust discussion of innovation versus kind of, you know, inconsistencies with plans in the form of that, because I think that is an interesting point. But my question to you, sir, other than I hope you and your wife here snuck in popcorn and wine and pretended like this was a terribly long movie, is a horror movie, in fact, is I think the petitioner pointed out where you live there. You're over here on Spencer, pretty close. Is that correct?
I'm right next door.
Right. Oh, right next to it. So I guess the other main element of this is I see a plot of land that's larger than obviously some of the other areas, and that splitting the lot seems to be a key concern for you guys there. But it strikes me in looking at those sizes that at some point in history, I'm assuming there would have been splitting there as well to create those size plots. So how does that kind of balance out in your mindset of splitting really being one of the main challenges that, you know, puts your concerns first and foremost to come here on date night?
So I guess our opposition here is to the rezoning, okay? You know, we're not necessarily opposed to all splitting of property, but we feel that the rezoning of this property to redevelop it is unnecessary. Okay. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, thank you. I just wanted to get your take. You guys should get out of here.
Before Mr. Eggleston, does anyone else have any comments?
Yes.
Mr. Phipps?
I just want to ask staff and your whole thought pattern process of this. I mean, it seems to me that this is getting to what we want to get to in our UDO process in terms of the intentionality of a sense of place when you're talking about the contextual patterns of the neighborhoods. I mean, you have a vision of how you want the community to look. And could this be even, you know, I mean, would you say that some of those elements were applied when you looked at this, when you said, okay, we see this neighborhood and we're trying to more or less preserve a sense of place there? Did some of those elements figure into you all's opposition to this in its current form?
The elements from the place types in the UDO? No, I think in looking at this, we were looking consistently with the community design guidelines that are in the BLE Transit Station Area Plan that talks about creating a block pattern with with buildings fronting on the street. So I think our recommendation is consistent with those design guidelines.
Okay. Mr. Eggleston?
I have a bunch of things, but we'll try to get through them quickly. So I want to be very honest about what I see as concerns that are more valid than others, so we can hopefully have more dialogue between now and a decision between the petitioner and the folks in opposition to maybe make some headway on some of those. Maybe we don't, but one of the things that came up was density. But if this property were 0.04 of an acre bigger, it would meet the density, right? Is that accurate?
Probably.
It's actually less than that. It would be 0.03, 0.03 of an acre would make it.
Our sheet has you at 0.56, but 1/100th of an acre certainly doesn't make a difference. So to me, I don't see, if we're 3 or 400ths of an acre off on the prescribed density, I don't see that as a particularly relevant issue. Mr. Driggs made the point earlier on one of his petitions, which seems like a day or two ago at this point, but that when we go from talking about, in his case, I think 2 to 5 dwellings, or in this case, 1 or 2 dwellings to 3, I don't see traffic as really being a major concern. I know traffic can be heavy over there, but I think that's splitting hairs. I do think, however, and I've talked to the Smiths and I've talked to Mr. Ittleby, both, and I do think that screening is a valid concern here, and I don't want that to be overlooked. So I appreciate some of the things that have been proposed in terms of initially planting more mature screening vegetation. I hope that's something y'all can get together and talk about. I don't know if that makes you guys feel any better, if that's something y'all just saw for the first time tonight or you had talked about before. And then the other one that I really don't know much about, and I'm hoping staff can shed some light on, is a lot of the issues that were talked about with water concerns. That's not something I have a great grasp on. I don't know if that's something y'all dug into much, but you address some of the water issues that were brought up?
We can do that in the follow-up report. I don't have that information in front of us tonight.
Okay, I think that would be helpful. And then the only other thing, and this might well be a stupid idea, but I'll make it anyway. I don't know that this would mean anything to you, Mr. Smith, and I don't know if this would be doable, Mr. Idleby, but looking at the site plan in terms of, again, the privacy aspect of parcel 2 and parcel 3 facing into Smith's backyard, would there be any way, and this comes to mind because near where I live in Plaza Midwood, I have a house that's kind of oddly oriented in this way. With the tree save area in the back, would it be possible to orient parcel 3 to the rear of the property such that only one of the 3 parcels would then face into the backyard of the Smiths? And Smiths, I don't know if that makes any difference to you, but as an idea, because I've seen a house like that in Plaza Midwood that's kind of facing into the woods almost, which maybe it feels like a mountain house, I don't know. And I don't know if that addresses staff's concerns with the fact that the lots, 2 of them would still not face the street, but maybe it makes some difference on houses facing into someone's backyard, I don't know. And Mr. Smith, feel free to let me know if any of those things, if you feel like any of those things would address much of y'all's concerns, or if you feel like that really wouldn't make much difference. Because I don't want you guys to, yeah, please, because I don't want y'all to spin your wheels arguing over things that maybe I think are important if you go, well, that's not gonna, you're not gonna care at the end of the day if those changes or modifications are made.
So just real quickly, that city-owned property used to be a lake.
Used to be a lake.
Used to be a lake back in the 40s and 50s. That's why there's a lot of water underground. There's a creek that flows to Sugar Creek from there. So that's where the source of the water's from. We've met with Jason several times and been willing to give him input, on our initial reactions to his plans. And we're certainly willing to work with him in the future on how the property is developed. We just don't feel that rezoning it is, we're not going to be able to come to an agreement on a development that requires this rezoning. So if that can crystallize kind of where we stand.
So nothing similar to this plan is going to be something that that you and your wife end up saying, okay, now we feel good about it. It's not a matter of tweaking some things. It's just flat out not something you can come around on. Right. Appreciate your honesty on that. And the only thing I would say is, the example that I give, and I give this to neighborhoods all over the place, but I think y'all will be particularly aware of the example that I use, is the houses on Matheson right now. There's 3 or 4 of them that are just absolute monstrosities, and they're so out of context. And I would argue that they are a detriment to the fabric of the neighborhood because they, shade the little mill house next to it from the sun. I'm certain it gets like 0 hours of sun a day now, and they've got to be 4,040. I mean, they might be 4,500 square feet. I don't know exactly what would be allowable on this parcel, but I think we'd all agree that at the end of a year or 2 from now, that brick ranch house won't be there, whether this passes or fails. And so I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what your preference would be, or what your preference would be, or what anyone's preference would be, but I would consider the options as, is there something that could be changed about this plan that would make you like it more? 2 houses or better screening or whatever. Or you say, no, we really want it to be 1 house, but keeping in mind that it could end up being like one of those Matheson houses that, based on the head shake you were giving me, I don't think you really think is appropriate in Noda either. I don't think it is. Is that a better outcome? Because that's probably the other outcome. And that's a rhetorical question, but one to consider, I think. Thank you.
Mr. Winston?
I just wanted to follow up with Mr. Eggleston. Just you asked about the water. I didn't know for staff, do we have to request a certain water study? I remember Mr. Newton was dealing with some stormwater issues on a rezoning a couple months back, and we had to ask for a certain specific type of study to understand that water flow issue.
We'll just follow up with Stormwater Services and find out what has occurred in that area, see if they have any history that they can provide, that we can therefore provide to council.
And I just take one personal point. I live probably a half a mile from this site on Anderson Street. I've lived there since 2005. And I can tell you that that area has seen massive change. Just those three houses just to the left down Spencer Street have incredibly changed the flavor of the neighborhood. All of these houses going down Heron pretty much started like these one-story ranch houses, and they look completely different. And I'll say we cannot continue I'm not saying we need to continue the way things get done, but this neighborhood is constantly changing, and it's kind of pushing the boundaries of what can go and what housing in Charlotte looks like. I don't know totally where I stand on this, but this doesn't seem totally out of the nature to me of how development has been going, particularly in this immediate area over the past 15 years.
With that, no other questions? Do we have a motion?
Close. Move to close. Second.
All in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye. Thank you very much. Item number 24, rezoning petition number 2018-025 is approximately...
Mayor Pro Tem, we have a procedural thing that we need to address before you hear this. This petition was incorrectly deferred at the beginning of the hearing. The mayor's script referred to items 22, 24, and 25. So you deferred item 24, but you were supposed to defer item 8, which was South End West Syndicate LLC, petition number 2017-203. So we need to, I would suggest that we do a motion to reconsider that deferral vote so that you can then vote and defer the proper hearings.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of what you just said?
Aye.
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 Sure. What she said, aye.
Okay.
And so now you'll need a motion to defer item 22, which is petition 2017-112, item 8, which is petition 2017-203, and item number 25, which is petition 2018-30.
So moved.
Second. Aye.
Okay. And these are renumbered, I think.
Right.
So, okay, so that's not the same as what I have on my list here. Okay. Got it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, for clarification, Mayor Pro Tem, now are we looking at 24, which is 2018-25?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so, back to that. That is
Airport.
excuse me. Okay, yeah, I don't have the, oh, here it is, okay. Approximately 108 acres located north of Wilkeson Boulevard, east of I-485, and south of I-85 in Councilmember Mayfield's district. Currently zoned is general business, general industrial, single-family residential R3, and residential manufactured housing, Lower Lake Wiley protected area, and airport noise overlay. Proposed zoning is for general industrial, Lower Lake Wiley protected area, airport noise overlay, general industrial conditional, Lower Lake Wiley protected area, airport noise overlay. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to the transportation and environment, as well as one technical item. And we have got 3 speakers, Stuart Harris, Steve Blakely, and Laura Reed, all speaking in favor. So you all will have 3 minutes after Ms. Keplinger speaks.
This property is located just south of Interstate I-85 on the west side of town, and 485 Outer Belt, and Highway 74 Wilkinson Boulevard. The airport is to the south, and Tuckasegee Road runs partially through the property. If you're driving down Tuckasegee Road, when you hit this property, you'll see that it's pretty much a rural area. Todd Road had multiple single-family homes, and so did Tuckasegee. All of those homes have been purchased, and some of them have been demolished. Right now, there are 4 single-family homes and 3 storage buildings or garages that are remaining. One of the homes is occupied, and it will be, the folks are moving out on June 15th, and all of those structures will be demolished after that point. So this property is a large piece of property that incorporates about 108 acres. The request is to rezone to I2CD, and the properties are in the Lower Lake Wylie protected area and in the airport noise overlay. The Southwest District Plan from 1991 recommends industrial and office and industrial uses for all of the properties that are in question tonight. You can see between I-85, Berry Drive, Wilkinson, and I-485, there is this whole area is really recommended for some type of industrial development. In terms of this request, it's for a mixed-use development with 2.4 million square feet of buildable area. The uses include warehousing, warehouse distribution, office, and other industrial uses allowed by right or under prescribed conditions in the district. There are uses that are prohibited, and they are shown on the site plan and in the staff analysis. In terms of transportation, there are multiple transportation improvements that are shown provided with this request, including improvements along I-485 ramps at 74 and on new alignment on Tuckasegee Road with pedestrian and bicycle accommodations, and commitments to a new industrial drive with pedestrian and bicycle accommodations. The site plan shows a large building area, auto parking envelopes, additional parking, potential tree save areas, and water quality areas. It shows a realignment of Tuckasegee Road. Unless you have questions about the transportation issues, we're going to skip over that. If you have questions, then CDOT can come up and respond to those. In terms of the outstanding issues, we do have a few related to the dedication of right-of-way and the clarification of the building square footage. The site plan shows it as 2 different things in 2 different places, so that's just a minor issue. The petition is consistent with the South District plan. The property is located close to the airport and the interstates. It is a warehouse distribution industrial use, which is appropriate in the airport noise overlay. And it's compatible with the industrial uses that are proposed for this area. And in addition, it provides additional road connections that help with street improvements that are will provide improved access to the site and creating additional street network in the area. So staff is recommending approval upon the resolution of the outstanding issues.
Thank you. Mr. Hare, are you representing everyone tonight?
I am,
Okay.
yes. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, Commission, Planning Commission, Zoning Committee. I appreciate you being here. Staff, thanks for that great overview of the rezoning petition. Got a couple quick slides here just to provide some context regarding this rezoning petition, and then I welcome any further dialogue that is appropriate. I'm Stuart Hare. I'm the Director of Economic and Community Affairs for the Aviation Department. It's been my pleasure to manage this project internally for the airport, in addition with other staff that have been involved with it, including our leadership team that is here tonight. You may be familiar with the Airport Area Strategic Development Plan that we're implementing as Project AMP. This looks at how we utilize for commercial development the approximately 2,000 acres that we control that are not necessary for aeronautical activity. This was a plan that was completed about a year ago now, and we've been working busily to implement this program. Three primary objectives for the plan is that we further the aviation department's need to be financially self-sustaining, that we reuse land that we control, and then we ensure that that land reuse is compatible with aeronautical activity. Some context on the site: we began acquiring property within this site in the 80s as part of our noise compatibility program. We have acquired the land because it was residential, which is not compatible with aeronautical activity. Further, it was heavily impacted by the I-485 construction. An existing neighborhood was bisected by that. And so we've acquired the land over the years for that. Now we're looking to sell the land for redevelopment to a compatible land use. The site plan Tammy went over. Transportation is a quick overview here of some improvements that'll be made as part of this program. That's pretty much my presentation that I wanted to share with you. I look forward to further questions and comments.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Move to close.
Second.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item number 25, rezoning petition 2018-028 by Pollock Shores, approximately 28 acres located on the north side of Shopton Road, west of Interstate 485, outside the city limits. Currently zoned R3, residential Lower Lake Wiley Protected Area, mixed use Lower Lake Wiley Protected Area, and commercial center Lower Lake Wiley Protected Area. Proposed rezoning is multifamily residential, conditional, Lower Lake Wiley Protected Area. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to transportation, environment, as well as technical items. And we've got 5 speakers signed up: Lauren Schofield, Keith McVeigh, Palmer MacArthur, Michael Oliver, and Eddie Moore. Looks like, Keith, you're it for the evening. So we'll go ahead. Okay, we'll go ahead first with Ken.
All right, for orientation, the airport is right up here. This is I-485 coming around. Shopton Road crosses Steel Creek and comes out here, and the property is right off on Shopton Road across from the premium outlet malls. And it is a request for 330 dwelling units, apartments, 4-story buildings, and the surroundings include, again, the outlet mall over here. The Berwick development is down in here. There are apartments right in here. There's approval for 17 units per acre right there. There is a public school right here. So it is in the midst of an awful lot of goings on. The Dixie-Berry Hill strategic plan called for a different series of land uses, non-residential uses primarily. That has been changed dramatically by the approval of the outlet mall there, which has made some big changes in the surrounding areas. And the proposal that they have before us, again, here is Shopton Road. The outlet mall is down to the south there, and it calls for new roads, a public road, I believe, coming into the site, and then circulating around, making connections to the various buildings. There is also a second way in and out, which would be a gated exit there. Again, there are streams and such. There's actually a major future public park just north of here as well. And again, there's multifamily already approved, 17 units per acre, right adjacent there. So the plan does, let's see, let me just make sure I didn't miss anything else in here. I believe that describes most of what we're doing there. The plan is not, it is inconsistent with the Dixie-Berry Hill plan. Again, we are supporting this redevelopment upon outstanding issues. That includes a little bit on site access and transportation improvements and their timing, and a little bit on tree save calculations, so minor points that can be dealt with. It is located across Shopton Road from the outlet mall. It is adjacent to or connected to other multifamily properties that are in immediate proximity. There is church, there is property, there is park, there is schools immediately adjacent. So the development here has not followed the Dixie-Berry Hill plan. But it is consistent with the general principles and the general orientation of properties around. And so we are recommending approval.
Thank you. Mr. McVeigh?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, members of the Zoning Committee. Keith McVeigh, assisting Pollock Shores with this rezoning petition. With me here tonight is Palmer MacArthur and Michael Oliver with Pollock Shores, as well as Eddie Moore with McAdams Engineering Group. Kent's done a great job explaining the site. It is a parcel located between the Premium Outlet Mall and the Bearwick Regional Park, just east of the Bearwick Elementary School and east of Bearwick neighborhood. I'll skip to the final slide here quickly. About 27 acres, 330 units, just roughly about 12 units to the acre, a fairly low density site. A lot of open space. There's some creeks and other features here that need to be preserved as due to the fact that it's in the lower Lake Wylie protected area or critical area. Do have public streets coming to the site off Shopton Road, an emergency access here for fire access as a second gated access. We have reconfigured the access here slightly to create a better flow and to accommodate public streets as well as the stream that was coming in that needs to be preserved. Again, a large amount of open space will help serve or utilize the existing Bearwick Town Center commercial area as well as support the Premium Outlets Mall. I know Lauren is here from Bearwick. I don't know if you want to speak real quickly.
So cold in here.
Thanks, Carl. Hi, I'm Lauren Schofield. I'm a Bearwick resident. I live almost next door to this thing, and it's a good thing compared to many of what we could have feared for our community. I'm speaking in favor of the rezoning position. I've been in the neighborhood since 2015, located very, very close to the properties. We in Bearwick, my village has about 350 single-family homes, all constructed within the last 3 years, but we're a part of the larger Bearwick Homeowners Association. We've got about 2,200 residential properties that basically run from our village on to the south. The Pollock Shores representatives reached out previously to both my neighborhood and to the Steel Creek Association for our input on their proposal, and I really appreciate the architectural changes they incorporated as a result. They've made it much more harmonious with the general theme and the look of Bearwick, using sort of a Scottish theme with some stone, some brick. So that was off to a good start. And also based on meetings with Steel Creek Residents Association Land Use Committee. It's the committee's opinion that Pollock Shores rezoning and site design is a very reasonable use of these assembled properties. They're actually putting together, I think, 2 or 3 different properties. Because that site topography is really rough. It's a very severe topography, not easily adapted, and we think this is a very good use in that regard. It does have good proximity to the I-485 and Highway 160 interchange. It's obviously right across the street from the Charlotte Premium Outlet, and it's good proximity to the airport. Now, as previously mentioned, they're seeking R17 approval, but we're pleased that the actual density, because of the green areas that they've got, will be more like 12, which is much more desirable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schofield. Do we have any questions? Ms. Mayfield?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This is a question for the petitioner. Keith, is this area looking to be, are you all looking to have this annexed into the city? And who's doing sewer, trash pickup, all that?
It will be served by Charlotte Water for sewer and water. At this time, it does not look like the site will be annexed into the city. Garbage service will be by the developer's responsibility, as will be, and fire protection will be volunteer fire department. But at this time, the petitioner is not contemplating annexing into the city.
So, follow-up question, and you may or may not have the answer to this. How do we let the community know that? Because it is so close to the Bearwick, and we already are having challenges in the area with the amount of development to differentiate this potential proposal of over 300 units so close to what is a part of City of Charlotte. Because if there's a problem, they're going to be calling and not have representation, to be perfectly honest, because you're outside of the city limits.
I'll make sure, we'll talk to Pollock Shores and make sure they know that, they're aware that it will not be in the city, that it is not currently in the city, and they will make sure that their residents are also aware of that as they move in. So we'll have to communicate that.
So, Ms. Hagler-Gray, question for you. Do we have the ability to request that something is stated in the deed to ensure that residents moving in are made aware, or if they're looking online at moving into a potential development like this, where they can be made, it can be clearly identifiable that they will be in outside of Charlotte city limits and not a part of Charlotte proper? Can we put that, can we have language like that put in the deed or no?
No, I would recommend that you not make that a note in the plan. You may ask the petitioner if he would do that, but not an actual note in the plan.
That's
We're
interesting.
not, because deed restrictions are beyond your authority, your
Right.
land use authority.
Thank you.
Ms. Hedgemere?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So as I was reviewing this, I looked at the strategic plan, and it recommends park and open space for a portion of this site, and some that it's recommended as office, retail. Could you tell us which one is, I missed that, which one is the park open space recommendation?
So this was the original plan for Bearwick, the master plan. A good portion of this site was actually zoned as part of Bearwick. So it was zoned for multifamily and single family as part of that. That area you see here has already been acquired by the county and is the location of the Bearwick.
I'm sorry, I couldn't follow that.
So
could you go back to?
This area here is actually already owned by Mecklenburg County and has been developed as the Bearwick Regional Park. So there's already fields there. It's part of the Bearwick Elementary. There's a road that goes in here. And the county has future plans to continue to develop this regional park, which I don't remember the size, but I think it's over 200 acres in size. None of this property was originally contemplated to be part of the park. It's actually zoned MX1, CC, and R3. The R3 is here. MX1 was here, and then a little bit of commercial center here. At one point in time, the Bearwick Neighborhood Center was actually at this intersection, but was eventually moved to its current location on Steel Creek Road at Dixie River Road. We did communicate with County Parks and Rec regarding access to the park, and we are providing bike and pedestrian access to the park. The park was not interested in having a roadway connection from this site to the park, so there will be bike and ped connection here to the Bearwick Regional Park, but not actual roadway connection. All this area here will be open space, but it'll be part of the apartment community. But due to, as Lauren mentioned, there is some severe topography here in this area. The stream and the topography in this area really prevent it from being developed. So it ends up being a lot of areas of open space here as well as here.
Thank you for clarifying that. So in the area plan where it says the office, retail, light industrial use, is that the portion where that's being developed?
That is essentially this site, yes.
Yes.
And
So-
that land use designation was also applied to the outlet mall itself as well. So that change sort of made a rather significant change to the dynamics of this area, as it focused on retail rather than business uses in this area.
Thank you.
Move to close.
Second.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Item number 26, Metrolina Partners, petition number 2018-029. Location is approximately 15.7 acres bounded by North Lake Center Parkway in I-485 in Council District 2, Dr. Harlow's district, and outside the city limits. Currently zoned as R3 and business, single-family residential and business park. Proposed zoning is urban residential conditional. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to transportation and technical items. And we've got 3 speakers in favor. Keith McVeigh, Brent Stowe, and Brian Graham. So we'll start with Mr. Main.
All right, so we're just moving right up I-485 from where we were before up to into the intersection of I-77 and I-485. The location is right very close to North Lake Mall. There's North Lake Mall Drive right there. So this is North Lake Center Parkway, which goes through some of the retail areas of North Lake to where it crosses I-485. And this is a vacant parcel just north of existing multifamily just below that. 15 acres, and it's being developed at about 19 units per acre. The North Lake area plan calls for a mixture of retail, office, and residential uses. It also very specifically says that residential uses would be acceptable as a standalone use at this location. The site plan calls for 300 multifamily units. That is, I say, 19 units per acre. The buildings are 4 stories. There are up to 12 buildings. It is an extension of Tisbury Drive, or Tisbury Road, which is a part of a multifamily just south of there, extended on into what is the site now, and meeting up with North Lake Parkway, North Lake Center Parkway, with a full interchange there to get in and out. I say interchange, I mean intersection. There is parking along the streets. There are buildings up to the street. And sidewalks along the edge, all the facilities that you would usually expect in terms of amenities in the area. The outstanding issues regard specific improvements and timing and how that plays out, environmental related to tree survey, the site and building design related to specifically a couple of parking locations where we're asking for a little bit different, and some other technical revisions. We're recommending approval of this plan. It is consistent with the North Lake area plan. The density is appropriate, and it is in close proximity to the mall, so it's in, within good walking distance of a number of other uses.
Thank you, Mr. Main. Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Quickly, we want to thank the staff for their support. The site is consistent with the North Lake area plan. Sterling Group is a multi-generational, multifamily developer with over 45 years of experience. They are also developing 2 other multifamily sites in the city currently. We will work with the staff to address the remaining outstanding issues. We will not be able to comply with CDOT's request for a contribution to a future signal. The site doesn't generate enough traffic to justify a traffic signal. There is a large vacant parcel across North Lake Center Parkway. We feel it's more appropriate that when that comes in, the location and the timing of the signal be part of that future development as opposed to the part of this development at this time. We are making improvements along North Lake Center Parkway in terms of the 8-foot sidewalk, 8-foot planting strip. It does get a little narrower here due to environmental features. There's a creek, a culvert, and a bridge at this location. We have to narrow the sidewalk or the planting strip slightly to accommodate that. It does continue the existing street network that's already been developed in the area and finishes that out as public streets. Buildings are oriented toward those public streets in North Lake Center Parkway. This portion of the site is not being rezoned. That's being left for future development and a future rezoning at a later date. We'll be back in front of the council. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Can I have a motion to?
Second.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Thank you. The last one is item number 27, petition number 2018-031 by City Sculpt, approximately 0.49 acres, located on the south side of Kenilworth Avenue, east of Harding Place in Councilmember Eggleston's district. Currently zoned office pedestrian overlay. Proposed rezoning is mixed-use development pedestrian overlay. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to site design and transportation.
Move to approve.
We have one speaker.
It almost.
Try, right?
It's almost.
Bridget Grant is here to speak. We'll start with Ms. Kepler.
So this property is located at the corner of Kenilworth and Harding Avenue. If you drive in this area, there are a lot of changes going on. There's a 225 multifamily unit multifamily development just beside this site, mixed-use development across the street, a church on the other side of Kenilworth, and the house that's shown on this aerial has already been removed pending future development. The land use plan is the Midtown Morehead area plan from 2012, which recommends office retail for the site and most of the surrounding properties. The request is for an office building with subterranean climate-controlled storage. The maximum height on the building is 100 feet. The building entrance will be at the street corner. I'm not going to go through all the details. All the information is in your notebook. There are 2 optional requests for a 7-foot encroachment into the 22-foot setback and no parking spaces for the self-storage facility. This is an elevation from Harding Place. One important note, the climate-controlled storage will not have access from the exterior, so it will all be interior. That's the Kenilworth elevation. The proposed request is a portion of it is consistent with the area plan, which is the office component. The self-storage component is inconsistent with the area plan, but because of the limitations on it, through the site plan, staff is recommending approval. We have a couple outstanding issues related to square footage that needs to be provided and transportation construction timing.
Hey, Ms. Grant.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, members of the zoning committee, thank you very much. I'm sure you're going to be happy to hear I don't have a presentation. Staff has covered everything tonight. We are going to address the 2 outstanding issues on the plan, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions. We're assisting City Sculpt on this rezoning.
Thank you. Mr. Winston, was that a question?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Winston.
I just have one concern with this area over here, period. I do go to this bank over here. And I know Harding Place and Greenwood Cliff. No, it's really difficult and it's dangerous at times to turn out there. And if we're putting this much more traffic on there, I don't know if you're saying that this signaling over here like you're saying something, but that's a dangerous turn left and right coming out already right now, and I would have concerns about the increased traffic there. Just a comment.
Would you like a response from CDOT on that?
Yes. Great idea.
With the development across the street, there is a signal plan at the Harding Kenilworth location.
Say that again, please.
There's a signal plan to go in at Kenilworth and Harding with a different property.
Well, there you go.
Wow, that was easy. Mr. Eggleston.
I've got a whole list of questions for you, Ms. Grant.
Ready.
First, motion to close.
Second.
Wait, Mr. Phipps has a question.
Yes, there'll be popcorn.
What does a subterranean storage facility look like?
Climate
Doesn't look like
controlled
much
storage
'cause
below
It's
grade.
underground.
Back cave.
Okay, it's climate controlled storage below ground.
Literally.
Oh.
You need more explanation?
Anything else you need for another billable minute or anything?
I'm good.
Good.
I've
Okay.
been here for a long time. You guys have had 10 hours.
Have a second?
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Silly drinks.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank
we
you.
need
Motion to close.
close the meeting.
Second.
All
Well
right.
done. Well done, colleagues.
Sure. All in favor?
Long
10.5 hours.
Long day, boys and girls. Long day.
I'm going since 9:15.
I've been going since 7 a.m.
We've got a closed session.
I had my first event at 7 a.m. So
Closed session.
yeah. What about that?
What about that?